Mr. Mayor, City Council, members of the community, I'm Ryan Cash, the staff liaison for community development and the Board of Adjustments, and I'm going to be going over the appeal process, which includes the presentation provided to the Board of Adjustments originally, as well as the ongoing evolution through the appeals process and ultimately up till tonight. So with that, before you we have the proposal for the conditional use permit. The applicant has applied for a conditional use permit to develop an educational institution located in the Central Business Zoning District in order to develop a musical conservatory to accommodate up to 300 full-time equivalent students and 44 full-time staff and faculty in order to enhance their existing music curriculum. The conditional permitted use within the Central Business Zone includes commercial schools and educational institutions with specific consideration given to traffic, parking, safety, and nuisance issues, as well as cumulative impacts and proximity to existing commercial schools and educational institutions in the vicinity and the impact on the availability of retail and office space. So the proposed education institution, the proposed class times of this building follow the traditional 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday for educational use. The proposed use will limit total full-time equivalent students to 300 and combine faculty and staff to 44. The proposed facility will include 5 classroom studios, 9 offices, a multi-purpose room, a student lounge, and musical performance space with seating for 680 occupants for a music conservatory, which is an ancillary use. Additional operations include intermittent public concert venues in the evenings and over the weekends. Here we have the subject property. Most everybody within town is familiar with this landmark. It goes by the name of CJ's, as well as the old Elks building, which was the fraternal lodge and the original use of the building. Subject property, as you can see indicated, highlighted in the red periphery, that's the location of the building. We have Main Street to the left side of the property, to the west side of the property. North Washington continues to the east. To the north, we have A Street, and to the south, we have First Street. The subject property is approximately 15,900 square feet and is located on the east side of Main Street, and the parcel has 130 feet of frontage on Main Street, which also has rear alley access. A little bit of continued background. The subject property was first developed as a fraternal lodge. Most recently, it's included bars and nightclubs over the last several decades. And in 2016, the property owner was granted a conditional use permit for ground floor residential use, which the owner did not pursue in the building conversion. And here we have some snapshots of the existing building. Here we have the site and lower floor plan. There's actually 3 stories to this building. This is on the subterranean layer. There's actually a split level on this course, so there's not traditional Main Street frontage. It's a little bit hard to discern, but you can see classrooms to the southwest of the building. We have a lounge area. To the northwest, we have restrooms. There's an existing racquetball court and a proposed exercise room. On the main floor, which is up a series of steps, you can see the arrow pointing to the east. That's the main access to the subject property. On the south, you can see the overall auditorium, as well as the performance stage. As you approach up through the stairs, there's also a reception area, restrooms, and a multi-purpose room to the northeast. And on the upper floor plan, we have upper floor seating as well as additional classrooms and multiple utilities and office space. Here we have a digital rendering of the proposed use as provided by the applicant. And we're going to go into zoning. As you can see here, the subject property is highlighted once again. And we essentially have central business zoning. This is the northerly most parcel on the east side of Main Street. Directly to the north, we actually have A Street, which separates our central business zone from motor business. And to the east, we have R4 multifamily, which is separated by South Washington. And directly over to the west, we have residential office right across the street from Jackson. So going into the definition of central business zoning district, the principal purpose of the central business zoning district is to provide a location of groups of compatible commercial uses having the common characteristic of not involving more than an incidental and minimal assembly, fabrication, or storage of commodities. For example, establishments dispensing retail commodities and those providing professional and personal services to the individuals. The The Central Business Zoning District is the most intensive commercial zoning district, and to promote pedestrian use, unbroken street-level commercial is encouraged in this zoning district. The Central Business Zone is not subject to a minimum requirement for off-street parking lots, area, or width. There's also varied permitted uses within the Central Business Zone, including entertainment, dancing, and recreation establishments, including restaurants, bars, theaters, video arcades, dance halls, and physical fitness centers. So the surrounding properties are mixed residential and commercial use. We have restaurants to the west and to the south. We have professional and personal service offices to the east. We have multifamily residential structures to the west, and we have vacant, underdeveloped city-owned parcel to the north. As you can see by those previous screenshots of the imagery, we actually had the gravel parking lot, which is a triangular parking lot. That's actually under city ownership. Existing building is also initially developed as a fraternal lodge in the building. The main floor level is located 6.5 feet above adjacent sidewalk on the main street, with the majority of the main floor windows filled in and above average height for pedestrians on the street. Basement windows at the lower level are present in the lower portion of the building. And the building does not appear to be well suited for ground floor retail use as determined by the board through the previous 2016 ground floor residential CUP approval. Here we have some photos of the access. The image to the top of the screen actually shows the 20-foot alley access, and the image to the bottom of the screen includes the city lot with the only curb cut access. There's actually no curb cuts existing to this property. It's only accessible via the city's property. There's also on-street parking available. Restrictions also vary for parking, with some limited 3-hour parking during the daytime and overnight parking restrictions. Included is the regulated downtown parking zone. So the dashed areas, as indicated in green, indicate the 3-hour limited parking with overnight parking permitted, and the orange dashed lines actually indicate the 3-hour parking zone with no overnight parking permitted. So going into this, we actually have specific considerations that we need to take into account for the traffic, parking, and safety and nuisance issues. So as staff, we gathered counts near the site recorded in 2016, which averaged 2,666 vehicles per day. And according to the Institute of Transportation Engineers, the TRIP generated manual, proposed student enrollment could result in an estimated vehicle volume of an increase of 714 vehicle trips per day, or 63 vehicles during the AM and PM peak hours. The IT trip generation is based upon 7 traffic studies provided upon universities with average student enrollments of 3,002 students, so caution should be applied to applying these traffic generation factors to the proposed use. Furthermore, Moscow is generally viewed as a very walkable and bike-friendly community. This U.S. Census American Data Survey from 2008 to 2012 reported that 20.2% of residents walked as their primary means of transportation to work, ranking 11th in the U.S. among small cities with populations between 20,000 and 99,999. 5.7% of those residents bicycled as their primary means of transportation to work, representing a total non-motorized mode shift of 25.9%. So we're going to go a little bit further with the parking. The subject property is located within the Central Business District, where off-street parking is not required. Again, the city parking schedule includes a parking requirement for education institution, which specifies 1 parking space for each faculty or staff member and 1 parking space for each 5 students. Again, this is outside of the Central Business Zone. For the current proposed use, at the proposed maximum enrollment of 300 students and 44 faculty, that off-street parking requirement would equal a total of 104 total spaces if the use were located in any zoning district other than central business. Staff explored 3 different parking demand scenarios that would likely result from the common permitted use within the Central Business District. So scenario 1 takes into account the prior use as a nightclub. Prior use would equal roughly 127 spaces, which include primarily a nighttime demand with limited daytime use. Scenario 2 includes residential conversion from the priorly approved CUP, and the residential conversion would equal 38 spaces, which includes a large overnight demand with mixed daytime demand. And scenario 3 would be a conversion to mixed commercial and office. And the mixture of retail and office use includes 57 spaces, mainly daytime demand with some evening demand possible. So in consideration of that stated intent and purpose of the Central Business District, the third scenario most closely represents the anticipated use and the resulting off-street parking demand. The proposed education institution should have a parking demand of 47 spaces beyond that of the reasonably anticipated principal use within the central business zone that staff recommended should be considered for mitigation, i.e. scenario 3. So safety. The subject property is served by fully improved streets with sidewalks and marked crosswalks on adjacent and surrounding intersections. No specific safety concerns have been identified by Public Works, Police, or the fire departments. And the nuisance issues, the applicant proposes to hire a sound engineer to mitigate the impact of the conservatory and to maximize acoustics. And the board did not identify any other anticipated nuisances related to the proposed use. So City Code directs consideration of cumulative impacts of and proximity to existing schools, commercial schools, and educational institutions in the vicinity of the educational institution. Code does not define the distance to be considered within the vicinity of the proposed use, and the following existing schools and educational institutions and their distance to the proposed use listed below it are identified and attached upon the map. Russell Elementary is located 562 feet east of the subject property. New St. Andrews College, the existing campus, is located 991 feet to the south of the subject property. Moscow High School is located 1,071 feet to the southeast of the subject property. And the University of Idaho is located 2,210 feet to the southwest of the subject property. Finally, West Park Elementary is located 2,522 feet to the southwest of the subject property. So as you can see, we have the identified locations on the map. We have the subject property right there, Russell School. There's the high school, the existing NSA campus. All of these properties are included along the frontage of the university, and then West Park School right over here. So we also look at the area of parking impact. The staff conducted a parking survey over a period of 5 days, starting on April 3rd through April 11th, to assess the availability of public parking stalls located within 600 feet, with counts taken at 9 a.m. in the morning and 2 p.m. in the afternoon. There is a total of 169 total public parking stalls, which were identified within the 600 linear feet of the subject property, and that area is roughly from C Street to 3rd and Jefferson to Jackson. During the survey period, the average number of parking spaces that were available included 9 a.m. with average was 91, or a total of 54% of the 169 spaces. 2 p.m. included 82, or 48% of the overall 169 spaces. And also during this review, it appeared that the cumulative impacts upon which parking were likely to occur included the use of New St. Andrews College and Russell Elementary. The CUP for the existing New St. Andrews College did require that the applicant provide 42 off-street parking spaces to mitigate the impact upon public parking. Staff did not identify any additional cumulative impacts that had not already been incorporated in the specific assessment, and consideration of these impacts already addressed within the staff report. The board evaluated the potential cumulative impacts, and the majority of the board determined that the required off-street parking as condition of the approval would sufficiently mitigate the cumulative impacts upon the public parking. So as we look at the parking, we're moving on now to commercial impact. The total potential retail office frontage of the subject property is 131 linear feet. Again, I admitted that I erroneously reported 170 linear feet within the staff report and during the time of the hearing. The total available retail office frontage in the central business zone, excluding existing public assigned parking areas, is equal to 18,246 linear feet. That's less than 1% reduction of potential retail or office frontage, which will be displaced by the proposed use. As noted previously, the subject building is not well suited to retail due to the vertical separation within the street level. Existing land areas dedicated to commercial schools and educational institutions currently occupy 2.1% of the central business district land area. Within the addition of the proposed property, commercial schools and educational institutions, their uses would occupy 3.4% of the total land area of the central business district. So the Board of Adjustment's determination. The Board of Adjustment conducted a public hearing on April 25th, 2017 regarding the proposed educational institution and approved the CUP application with the following conditions. Number one, the applicant would be required to provide 47 off-street parking spaces within approximately 1/2 mile of the subject property, subject to approval of the zoning administrator. And number two, the applicant shall be allowed to phase in off-street parking requirement by providing 50% of the required parking mitigation upon occupancy of the building, and the remaining 50% to be provided when enrollment of the educational institution's use upon the subject property reaches 150 full-time students as enrolled under the education programs offered upon such property, or 5 years passes from the date of the issuance of certificate of occupancy of the vehicle or of the building, whichever comes first. So the Board of Adjustment conducted a public meeting on May 1st, 2017 regarding New Standards College approved CUP application to review and approve the reasoning statement of relevant criteria and standards. And on May 1st, 2017, the Board of Adjustments voted to approve the draft minutes in the RCS with amendments. Following that, on May 3rd of the same week, the Board of Adjustment Chairman signed the final minutes in the RCS as approved by the BOA during the May 1st meeting, which began a 10-day appeal period. During the 10-day appeal period, 5 appeals were received. The first appeal was received May 10th, 2017 from Ryan Pilgrim. Later on that afternoon, on May 10th, 2017, the appeal from Leontina Hormel. On the May 11th, we received our third appeal from Tina Hilding. And on May 12th in the morning, we received our fourth appeal from John Davis. And later on that afternoon, we received our fifth appeal from David Hall. So here we are. That brings us to our City Council meeting. This appeal proceeding has been noticed as a public meeting to inform the public that the Council shall not act on an appeal which differs materially from which was considered by the Board of Adjustments. When considering the merits of an appeal, no additional public testimony or information shall be taken or considered by the Council. Then the appellants and applicant will have each been informed, and the appellant will have 5 minutes to present their appeal, and the applicant will then have 15 minutes for rebuttal. City Council will then deliberate and take action on each appeal separately. Council's action is to conduct the appeal proceeding, including individual representations of the appellant arguments and applicant's rebuttal, and for each individual appeals request, they may either sustain the decision in whole or in part, or reverse the decision in whole and in part, or remand the decision in whole and in part to the board with comments and or instructions for further consideration by the board, or remand the decision in whole and in part for the board to gather for further information, where the appellants show the council by preponderance of evidence that this information is not available at the time of the final decision, and it's in the public's interest to develop such additional information on this matter. Again, we have the final definition of the commercial school and education institution as conditionally permitted within the Central Business District. And at this time, Mr. Mayor, City Council, the floor is back to you.